Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We are Team 2834 from Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. We are very happy to be here. Again, we presented this material or similar to it last year. Was anybody here last year? A couple of folks. Okay, so for those folks who were here last year and saw this presentation, there are some different aspects that we're going to share here today. First of all, my name is Andrew Rain. I'm the coach of the team. I'm joined by some folks here. You can pick up the microphone and introduce yourselves.
My name is Shavina Sivapalan. I'm a junior on the team. I do strategy and Tableau.
My name's Tom Gilberto. I'm a junior on the team as well, and I do the app programming for scouting.
My name is Kelly Cook. I mentor. I have 2 kids on the team who are not in the room at the moment, but I do strategy on our side.
Okay, perfect. Then there's Dr. Ghassan Cridley, who's all the way in the back, has also participated in this aspect of our team, and he's helped us out quite a bit also with this presentation. So what is it that we want to discuss here today? So what is scouting and why is it important? We'll discuss some different data collection options. The bulk of the presentation we intend to be towards Tableau, a tool that we use that we have been proud of what we have developed, and we like to share what we have done. I know that there are more and more teams that are using it. For instance, I think I see already 1640 right in the front. We met these folks last year from Philadelphia who do quite a bit on Tableau, and anybody else who is using the tool today, just by show of hands, right? All right, very good. That's a lot more than last year. Anybody using it because they came to the presentation last year? Please help me out. All right, thank you very much. I think did we meet last year? No, we did not. Okay. All right. Let me at least believe that we met last year and that we. All right. We're going to speak also quite a bit about data-driven decision-making, which is a competency that we tried to enlist on our team. And then we're going to share with you a little bit more on OPRs and a Team 2834 database, which we share on our website. If we did not really share this last year's presentation, we're going to tell you more about it this year. So why Scout? So this competency in our team, and quite as a matter of fact, this slide was from one of our former students, Kevin Zhang, who wanted to really make sure that this was part of the presentation, why Scout, and he quoted Sun Tzu in The Art of War. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Some of you know this quote. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. And then finally, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles, right? So this is why we have the presentation title, Know Your Opponents and Partners, and to enlist strategies that will help you be successful in battle. So this is a scouting workflow. How we view it here on our team is comprehensive from end to end, starting with planning, and then collection methodology, right, are all work that's done in the preseason to try to figure out what it is that you want to do for the season. And then during the competitive season, analysis and decision making. And so what we're going to talk about, we're going to touch on all of these aspects here: planning, collection, analysis, and decision making. So from the planning standpoint, and guys, I think this is, we said that we were going to now also share the mic and start to go through the presentation. And also, likewise, I would appreciate if the group here were helping us, right? If there are things that you do as best practice or questions that you have, please share them as we're going through this instead of necessarily holding them for the end, because we really appreciate. I think it goes better if it's nice and collaborative, and we have mics up here that we can go around with. So, Tom, you want to take this one away?
Yeah, sure. So planning is a huge part of when we're doing Tableau. A main part of it is the app side of it. So your Tableau is only as good as the data that you can collect. And in order to do that, you have to have a firm, really strong knowledge of the rules, and it's really crucial that you read everything so that you can really imagine what robots are possible, such as like defensive robots or different things and strategies that robots will employ. For example, during Recycle Rush, the field was split into two, so defensive robots were not very that crucial. But now, a defense robot would be able to prevent a climb, and that helps a lot. So the goal of Tableau is to analyze and find the robot that's the best fit for you, and not necessarily the best in terms of scoring points. This year it was very obvious that gears and climbing were going to be crucial to winning, but while shooting was not a big priority at previous levels of the tournament, during Worlds it's very important. The marginal difference that shooting made was not that much, but in previous tournaments we wouldn't see any shooting at all, but we're going to see that it has a huge role here. So in terms of the data you want to collect, you're really trying to plan ahead and see everything you want to be able to capture and effectively represent every type of robot in your Tableau analysis.
Want to go on to the slide?
Sure. Next slide.
If I can add to what Thomas said, it's an interesting point, and some of you have been coaches and mentors for a number of years. We had students join our team, let's just say during the Recycle Rush. Anybody goes back to Recycle Rush? Anybody, right? Okay, so we had students join our team. This is our first year in high school robotics and Recycle Rush. And consequently, as they went through that season, right, and coming back for next season, their mind was not thinking anything about defense, as Tom had. All they knew and had seen was a Recycle Rush game was one type of game, right? And so every year the team needs to come back and really consider, as Tom is saying, all the different aspects of the game that could be played. What we're showing here, I'll let you continue to elaborate, as we started our process of planning, what this chart is showing, and I don't think it's comprehensive at all, is a list of all of the different possible data points that we could collect, right? And I think it went on. And if you took a look at the whiteboard that we had, right, you know what one of those looks like. And at this point in the year, right, what we're left with, after having gone through three tournaments, we're focusing primarily only on the green. Can you want to say anything else?
Yeah. So when you're trying to collect your data, you want to keep it as simple as possible. And as you can see here, we always start off with these super wild ideas, wanting to collect absolutely every metric we possibly can that we think will have any impact on decision making. But in the end, it turns out that we make it a practice to go to the week 1 tournament and implement all of these ideas that we want to capture into our app and then test it. But then within the first 10 minutes, we had found that a vast majority of the data we wanted to collect was not only impossible to collect, but was impractical or irrelevant.
Let's stop here for a second. So Tom is correct. We walked into week 1 tournament, and it's true, as I said. After 10 minutes, we knew that we were way off. And so what was your guys' idea for, let's say, counting fuel? Right, so go ahead.
I had a button that ticked up and you just basically estimated based on how much they shot it, and I had buttons going +1, +3, and +10.
+1, +3, and +10. Okay, what was another one?
We have a similar strategy. We programmed our own app, and we were using a slider for to estimate number, and we also had +3, +1.
Did anybody try to go really discrete by unit? I'm sorry, you had a go ahead with your comment.
We used marathon clickers and clicked every time a ball went.
Oh my gosh.
So every scouter had a clicker and you tried to count discrete, right? Every single one? Okay. Anybody else count discrete? Or go ahead, your comment, please.
We count discrete in auto because the field is worth more points than, but afterwards we just count how many times they go to shoot.
Okay, so fair enough. So in auto, because of the value was a bit more important, so you went discrete there. It's also shared on if one robot is shooting, you can also catch it on the scoreboard, right? You also see the fuel coming out the back of the boiler, right? And so there are different ways to, all right, go ahead.
We have a counter, one for Tele-App and one for auto, that goes up by 2, so you can just get whatever score they get in Tele-App, just multiply by 3 if it's an eyeball, and then just add that in. And it goes up by 2 just because it's a little bit quicker than going up by 1, especially with these teams to get like 30 fuel, and they're going to click 30 times.
All right, so thank you, sorry to cut you off. So every team has to decide what it's capable of doing. We came to the conclusion that the sight lines were impossible, and that we started in with discrete count, and then we decided to go by chunks, right?
Yeah, so it was really hard, like reflexes and just like looking at the fast-paced game. It was impossible to really measure the ball by ball as these things were just shooting out so fast. But so what we ended up going towards was qualitative. So we would estimate the amount of balls that the carrying capacity of the robot. Then we estimated the accuracy of the robot. And the amount of times that it's shot. And so by multiplying all of these together, you get able to guesstimate not only the accuracy, but how many balls are shot. Yes, question?
We actually had something similar. Our pit scouters would input the data as to how much fuel was being carried. First of all, it would tell us whether or not we needed to scout about the fuel. And if we did, it would set that as the max value we could put in. And then we would also press a button that would say how accurate it was. So we measure how much it shot, estimate how accurate it is.
Yeah, we found that so overall, like with this basic concept of going to the week 1 tournament and with all this data and then condensing it down to a few key metrics you want to collect, it makes not only is it easier, but it makes your data more reliable because scouters are not having to focus on 20 million things at once. So the less you collect, the more reliable your data will be. With reduced human error. So another example of this was we tried, as you can see, we tried to collect whether pilots dropped the gears, and we would try to figure out the T-shirts of the pilots and compare it to the T-shirts of the drivers. And overall, the point I'm really just trying to drive home is that keep only what's important.
Anybody scout pilots? How did you attempt to do it?
So first, get the numbers, and if you were learning like something goes over it, you would try to get them at the end, the numbers of the pilots at the end, or when they want to get their own robots down from the hanging. And what they were actually doing, we would count how much time they would place the gears and how they would get it up. And we would have to set titles for each of those. For instance, if they mainly got the gear, it would be a receiver, and if they mainly got placing gears down, it would be a placer. And as time went on, we saw that we didn't really count the gears that were being placed. We just needed to count how much gears were being dropped and if they're communicating with their teammates and also other pilots.
Okay, interesting. We eventually went away from that. And all this is no right or wrong. The point, although, that I think is right is that each team has to decide and force yourself to really try to decide what you can collect reliably, what are the really critical elements of deciding wins and loss in a match. We'd like to speak to data collection method here for a little bit. Tom, I think still, go ahead.
Yeah, so we really recommend the use of tablets. And using Android over iOS because it makes changing and editing the app much easier. So a few of these options already exist, Team 980 and Team 2338s.
Anybody here from those teams?
Oh, darn. So Team 180 also has a PDF for paper scouting. And we also have a Team 2834 database, which has OPRs, which we'll explain later.
We had in previous years developed our own app. This year we used Thunder Scouts, right? And had adapted it. Who else creates their own app here? So
wow,
many teams. All right. And do you make it available to the community? Who else would do that? You just speak to what you do. So go ahead. Would you like to say?
We
we're on 1519.
Okay, 1519.
And you've done some improvements on the app structurally that we think are worth sharing with the community. So we'll do it sometime this summer.
Okay, perfect. Anyone else have an app available to the community?
It's on Google Play Store.
1519? Or what's your team? Sorry?
3990.
3990? Okay, 3990. Anybody else?
So we don't actually write like a platform-specific app, we just make a web app, and then that way that allows scouts to put it on their iOS phone, laptop, Chromebook, anything that they're using.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, go ahead.
Glorified by app, just like him, it's a web app. We don't go for the iOS or Android because the time to, a web app is much quicker than the specific.
Understood.
Depends on what toolkits you use and so on and so forth. That's the approach we're using.
We all agreed with that, by the way. We were
Yeah.
just worried that someplace we were going to were out of the way and that we wouldn't have internet connectivity. So that was a concern with ours, but we
Right.
liked the web app a lot.
We actually are all wired to a hub connected to a local computer.
Oh.
We have no outside connectivity
Wow.
during the session.
So we used Team 980's app and implemented any changes we wanted. Their code's available on GitHub, so you can. It has a lot of comments and everything, and allows you to easily edit their code. Last year, and for a lot of years before that, we had developed our own app, but the lead programmer had graduated, and because apps usually tend to make way more sense to the developer, we couldn't make sense of it after that. And
I'm not sure if any other teams experienced that, but we did.
Yeah, another team. Yeah, so dependencies got outdated, code got outdated, and so we really recommend, just for sustainability reasons, having a coding manual so that future generations of programmers will be able to make changes and edits. We found Team 980's app to be very, very modular and easy to edit. So it's a great resource.
So I guess if we can, if you're going to be investing time and resources and effort, and well, all of us are here in this room because we obviously know that scouting is the most important aspect of the game to win, right? We're all like-minded here, right? So if you're going to be investing time and resources in it, suggest that you work yourselves towards some automated approach. Paper and keying into Excel still works. It's okay. Sorry, it's okay. But using an app is much cleaner and also supports what we're going towards here. Sorry, there was a comment in the back. Go ahead. You have to yell, or we can get a mic back there.
Java.
It's in Java.
One more comment, though. In addition to collecting data with our app, we also have paper scouting for extremely qualitative data, like the gear drop-off was really efficient, or they're fast. Things that you wouldn't want to capture or burden on the scouters, but really understand that that's all really in addition and supplemental to the app, and it's definitely not something that takes priority at all over the original data. So app data is ultimately what we're going for.
Question.
Would those subjective judgments really ever make or grade your final decision?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we refer back to it during alliance selection, which we'll go over soon.
Yeah, they do. And you can imagine sometimes it's debated. Different people have seen different things, right? But we supplement this with what we call qualitative or clipboard scouting, right? With folks who also have an eye towards certain aspects of the game. Like here, it's a hard one, like driving skill, right? Sometimes teams ask questions like, how experienced is your drive team, right? Sometimes that's in pit scouting. I've seen that question, but there are certain aspects of driving that we try to have an eye for. I'm sorry, go ahead, the question.
I was just wondering how many kids you have scouting the matches.
We have,
Yeah, we got 6. Yeah, 6 scouters with tablets and 2 or 3 people paper scouting.
6 or 1 per team, so everybody chooses a robot and follows that robot entirely.
Yeah, so,
And then one head scouter who essentially watches over the entire system.
yeah, the master. So here we have why you use an app over like paper scouting or any other method. It automates the data collection process, makes it way easier to analyze. And if you were taking a paper scouting type thing and you plugged in the points into a CSV, if you're really collecting meaningful data, and quite a bit of it, that would be forever. It would take a very, very long time. It also reduces errors, so just from a human error type standpoint, writing something down takes much longer and you'd miss something that's going down in the game than if you just clicked a button. Also, it has a lot of increased functionality. For example, you can edit the code to really measure whatever you want. And in previous years, we had measured things in units that were completely different than just like rotations per cycle. And different things in previous games that you just can't expect scouters to just calculate in their heads. Yeah, and so we added a timer to the Team 980 app, something that wasn't native to it before and is one of the key metrics we look at for analyzing teams.
Anybody else use a timer to time the climbing? Yeah, you did. How did you do? How did you do? You guys 1640 and one team. How did you do it?
So we have a little banner at the bottom of the screen that's always there constantly. So at any time, if the robot goes to scale, you just click, go down to scaling, and then it'll instantly shoot down towards that and then start the timer. So you don't have to scroll down the bottom of the map, press start the timer. So it really helps that you're not wasting that time, and you can start the timer as soon as they start climbing, and there's a little stop.
Okay.
We scout per station this year rather than per robot, so our airship scouters will estimate greater than 5 seconds, less than 5 seconds, etc. And our analyst, who's kind of the core scouter, will also time that. So that's been more precise than actual airship scouters.
Okay, perfect. There was one more in the back. Did you have a comment in the back? You had a timer?
At the very start of the time, we took the timer, and then the time all the way up to the top of the stop it, and there's a box at the bottom that says you're climb, and that means like the top of the place.
Okay, good. Yes?
With our team, we have for our climbing, we have can't attach to the rope, we have very slow and inefficient, we have takes a while but it gets there, and we have fast and efficient, so that we have like each different like time variation of climbing without having to like time it specifically.
So, yes?
Back to your question, your point about qualitative data versus the actual hard data. This is something we actually added in after, because we were looking at this and different scouters had different ideas of how fast a robot climbs. So we put this in during the season, the timer piece, just because this was something we felt we needed.
Mm-hmm. It took us a while to get right. I'm going to ask that let's move on. We got to get into the meat of the presentation here. What we'd like to share with you, and so using data for decision making. So again, this is really we call it a competency. Is that we like our students to know that the data speaks for itself when there are either in a line selection or match tactics or so forth. Sometimes there are different opinions that are shared. Sometimes there are folks that come in there that are vocal. Sometimes the people that are vocal, you can question a little bit what their approach, right? And sometimes there are folks who, quite frankly, really are so single-minded as not to be listening to other thoughts and opinions how to approach a match. And we have found to allow our students to be the most successful, you have to allow the data to speak, and that's why we have really invested a lot to try to come up with ways to easily show and explain data for decision making to others. So Shavina, you want to come up and start to take it away in this section, and we'll show you a little bit about what we've done with the data and Tableau and so forth, and would appreciate your comments as well. So go ahead.
All right. I'm just making sure that you guys can see me, a little tiny. But so essentially, one of the big, as a strategist, data is so important because you go to strategize with all these other teams, and everyone has their own opinion, and everyone feels that something is important. Everyone wants to do something, and you have to show that with the data, with the decision that you're making, what you're pushing for is the most valuable and the most effective in terms of getting points and winning the match. So kind of starting off with that, I'm going to show you how I use Tableau, the program that we use for our data analysis, to do single match strategy. Essentially, Tableau can be used to make match predictions, so you can look at the data and go, okay, so this team, this alliance looks like it's going to win this match. This alliance looks like it's going to win this match because of this. And then you can also track what autonomous is that they're doing, so what are they capable of, how frequently are they doing it, because a lot of times a team will tell you, hey, we can do a center peg autonomous. But can they really, which is the real question. And then it also helps us to analyze what's the best way to get the highest amount of ranking points. So to start off, this is a match, one of the matches that we, was anyone at Howell by chance?
Hey, Michigan teams at Hull?
Yeah. So we were
Okay,
also at
so
Howell.
this is-
Yeah. This is a little familiar to you guys probably. So we played a match. We were paired up with 66 and 2145, and we played a match against 27, 4362, and 5530. Are any of those teams in here right now? No? Okay, so in this match, essentially, we were given this outcome right here, and if you look at the, so we're the red alliance.
We'll point out where we are.
Right. Okay, so we're the red alliance right here, and they're the blue alliance. And according to the data, like outstandingly, the blue alliance looked like they were going to win. Not because of gears or their autonomous. We matched up pretty evenly in terms of that, but they had a way higher output in terms of shooting. So of course we go into the semifinals and we lose. If you guys look at semifinal number 2, we lost 498 to 286. This is obviously a mistake on the part of data analysis. Going into the next semifinals, though, we took a closer look at this data and decided, something extreme has to happen. Otherwise, there's no way we're going to win this. And the data really shows that, the values are so extreme compared to each other. So what we did was decided to play double defense against this team, which closed the margin up by closed the margin 345 to 306. So we missed one climb, which is the reason we lost that match. In terms of that's how data really benefits in terms of single match strategy. But we can also track time. So this is a plotted chart. So this is climbing statistics. So how frequently or how many times they've climbed versus their average climb time. Through this chart, we know, so the teams that are highest up in that corner over there, they climb in the least amount of time and the most frequently. And so through this, we were able to tell, okay, so this team 27 and team 5530, which were the two teams that we were opposing, had the slowest climbs and the least frequent climbs on that alliance. So we knew that if we can either go up against 27 or 5530 in terms of defending them to make sure that they don't climb near the end of the match. And based on our data, we knew that 27 had the slowest climb time. So if we were able to restrict them the longest, then they would have the hardest time climbing near the end.
Will you go back?
Yeah.
One more. Okay, so you're not familiar with the way that we've been looking at these charts all year, so we know exactly what it says. We have the legend here, so you can take a look, and we've kind of conglomerated information that may or may not make logic that way to do it, but it's all on one chart. Shooting, gears, and climbing, the key elements of it. And as we went into this, right, we said this is going to be tough, and since it was too late to join Model UN or do something like that, right? We had to kind of devise how are you going to devise a strategy to win this match, right? When you're really up against it. So I don't know, what would you guys have done? Right? If you've seen a match and you have data and you're really up against it, what do you do? Right? So we we enlisted the strategy that we needed to do something radical and play defense. And in match number 1, that was the plan. We just didn't do it effectively, and we took the loss. And in match number 2, we finally got that part of it right, but if I remember, there was one missing climb on our alliance that caused us to lose in match number 2, and we already had lost match number 1, so that was that.
Right. For those of you who, I'm sorry, I just keep going, but like the dark green is autonomous gear, and then the light green is just gear placement during teleop. The blue is climb, and the red is how many times they shooting points.
Question, did you guys practice strategies, potential strategies before going in and using this data? Like, we might need to play defense, here's some strategies we've used like before the matches coming up?
Well, we plan all of that based on the data. So I'll show you how to do it during our live Tableau section. But essentially, we can plug in the numbers of the teams that are going to be on the field. Then we decide based on that what is most beneficial for each person to do.
But this is a really good question. The fair answer for that is no. When we had our team is predominantly, let's just say, gear and climbing driven, and to put into a different role all of a sudden at that point, we could have done better. And like I said, when it came into match number 1, we knew what we wanted to do. We didn't execute it correctly. And in match number 2, had learned a lesson, but it was too late. So I think that's a very good point, right? Even going back to the planning. And if you're planning for a season, to project forward that you're going to eventually be placed in a role that you're not accustomed to, right? Just like other sports, right? Sorry, go ahead.
And if I may comment on that defensive strategy worked out really well for you guys in the state championship.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
I don't remember if it was you guys or if it was Los Gorillas, but when we were playing against you guys in Keys, you were playing such good defense that we only got 3 rotors and 2 climbs.
Right. Actually, like our drive team essentially learned defense during this match right here. So yeah, it definitely benefited us in the long run because we ended up playing a lot of defense during state championships, which really benefited us in terms of points.
We were capable of getting 4 rotors and 4 rotors because of your guys' defense. That defense was really quite good.
Thank you. No, but I mean, these guys have a wonderful team also. Which
right, you guys.
I don't know if we have visual of any of that. I don't know if we have that in there, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come and we'll see. But if not, we can come up and take a look.
All right. So another thing that you use, another aspect of strategy that I use Tableau for is definitely alliance selection. This is one of the most key elements that you can use Tableau for, in that it predicts qualification outcomes. So you already know you kind of have an idea of who's going to win, who's going to lose, so you have an idea of what the rankings are going to look like, and it's good for creating preliminary lists. So before going out into the field, deciding what your pick list is, like who are you going to pick, who do you think is going to be left on the field when it's your turn to pick, and then through deciding who has the best autonomous, who has the best shooter, breacher, for example, and then creating a final pick list. So going out there. Right before you go out onto the field, deciding, okay, so this person has not been performing up to their previous level, so they can no longer be on our pick list, like that. One big way, something that's really nice about Tableau that we were able to do for alliance selection was a box and whisker plot. So essentially what this let us do was, it's kind of like, how do I explain this?
It shows this is climbing statistics. Oh, by the way, all of the charts that we're showing you here are out of Tableau. They were created in Tableau.
Yeah.
And this is one of them called Box and Whiskers, and it's showing climbing statistics for all the teams at
Howell.
Howell?
Mm-hmm.
Or
no, this is
Michigan State Championship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So you guys are probably on
so
this
there
one.
you can take a look at it here. But this is variability in climbing based on the climbing timer, right? So we said we had put in a timer, and this is showing the variability of the time. So you can call out some of the teams, and you can see the difference.
Right. So for example, this is teams that have below 5 seconds, teams that have below 10 seconds, and this essentially takes into account all the data, and then also takes into account human error and any data points that seem like, okay, this is way out of this box. There's no way that it took them that long to climb, and they'll just exclude that data. So it does it for you, which is a huge benefit of Tableau. It's like processing human error, essentially. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you point out like Team 70. Anybody from 70 in here?
Okay.
All right, so Team 70, right, you can, if you just show with your hand, very little variability in all of their climbs, all of them successful within 5 seconds, according to the scouted data on a timer. Now, if you go right next, go over to like 469, right, you go, right, is also not a lot of variability, but a little bit higher, so that's between 6 and 9 seconds average, and then you can see, let's find 2834, right? 2834,
right
right,
here.
is there. So between 4 and 12 seconds and so forth. So as you get into the heavier tournaments, and this one here where we all are today, so the really fast climbs consistently are critical, and this is what this data was telling us.
Another visualization that we use is this one. This is one of my favorites actually. It's for second round picks, and it's essentially a cancelization. It's a process to cancel out who's already been picked, so who's the best robot left on the field, which I'll kind of explain to you during our live Tableau session. Okay. Are there any questions before I get into that though? Okay.
All right, so we're going to switch over to a little bit live demonstration of how we and Shavina are going through an alliance selection. We're gonna replay Howl as if it were going to happen all over again.
Currently, this is in Tableau. These are the actual visualizations that we use, and this is what we saw right before we went into Howl alliance selections.
So you can explain the charts a little bit, what they're looking at, because we've seen them, for a long time.
This one is a worksheet, which means it's multiple of these charts put together. So this one analyzes their gear delivery system. So it's like, okay, so the dark green once again is their autonomous gear delivery, and then the light green is their teleop gear delivery. Blue is how many times they climb, how frequently they climb, and then red is their who's the best shooter there, and then in reverse order. So. Alrighty.
So you switch to live?
So when we're going into actual alliance selection, I have this one open on my screen. So it has all the teams that were there up on the screen. And so we'll go through each of the teams as they get called.
So on Friday night, as you guys do, we had put together our pick list and then refined it, and are now going into the alliance selection, ranked number 3 on the field. So we were number 3. We were number 3 captain, and the number one alliance was 302, right?
Dragons, yeah.
So anybody here from? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So you went from the multiple worksheets on one screen, and then this is just an aggregate of everything?
This is an aggregate of 3 things, actually. So it's autonomous gear, teleop gear, and climb. So climb will always remain blue, and then the gears will always remain green. That's kind of just how.
This is a benefit of Tableau. It's really quick in terms of how you can consolidate data. Again, I know that what we do here sometimes, some folks might say, well, how can you show, let's just say, gears and climbing on the same scale and so forth. I know that some folks sometimes struggle with it, but to see the visualization of all of it on the same place at the same time allows us to decide, okay, we got to go quickly to who's the best climber, who's the best gear, who's the best shooter, and it allows us to do that. So, question in the back. Go ahead.
So when your scouters are scouting their own team, do you tell them exactly what you want to see and also how you want them to scout in a certain way?
Our team?
Yeah.
So when they're scouting Team 2834? They're supposed to scout it like they scout everybody else. But actually, frequently what I've seen is our data gets worse when they're scouting our team because
Nobody watches.
Nobody watches, and then also if they're watching our team, they input less because they're so focused on what our team is doing that they're not actually watching, not inputting how many. So there's been times where we put up 6 gears and they're only input 2, and I'm like, you guys, this is completely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, but we to that point though, we like to project how other teams are most likely seeing us. So we try to scout ourselves as if we're anybody else was scouting us. So 302, on behalf of its sponsors, would like to select Team 51.
Okay, so 51 has been eliminated and 302 has been eliminated.
And Alliance captain
I mean, they
number
picked.
2 was 4362, the gems. So 4362, you take them off,
Yep.
right? So this is the chart that Shavina's goes on the field during Alliance selection, has the Tableau with her, right?
Yeah.
And as the teams are called off, can just go click, click, click. So 4362, on behalf of its sponsors, would like to select team number 27.
Team number 27 is off the field.
27. Where is 27?
27, though, was, if you look.
I don't
down
see
over
27. Where is
there.
20? Why would
Yeah.
anybody possibly
down
pick team
there.
27?
Exactly. So we go over to the Alliance selection one, and you're like, okay, so why is 27 so low on there, but they're getting picked so early? It's because they're the best fuel robot that was there that afternoon.
Right.
So
Those of you who are from Michigan, you obviously know this. So is Team Rush was predominant in Howell, was clearly the best shooter on the field, and had been focusing on that during all of the qualification matches, right? Had clearly other capabilities. They were just focusing on shooting, right? And so this was the reason why they were selected next. And then here comes 2834. What are we going to do?
choice. So we're left with, so according to the data, we're the second best robot on the field, and we have either the option of 66 or 830. So who are we gonna pick? We go into a lot, so we're looking at these numbers. Okay, so 66 and 830. Let's look at them in their trend. Let's take a look at how they're doing so far. 66, 830. Okay, so from the trend, we know that 830 is trending a little bit down, but pretty consistent. 66 is trending up, and they have pretty consistent climb times, both of them. So.
Can I stop there? All right. So one of the aspects that in my personal experience and that I feel strongly about is that there's always a big difference between Friday and Saturday, and that teams do different things overnight. They fix their robot, or the robot becomes unfixed and starts to become unreliable over time. And so the performance on Saturday versus Friday is really critical for our decision making and how we do it. And that's why we have, and this is in Tableau, to put trend lines. So I know you've not seen this chart before, but when a team is trending up or down, that's really going into eliminations. That's really important for us in terms of our selection making.
So is that just another chart?
Yes, it is
Yep,
another
that's
chart.
another just another chart that's created off of the same core data, with a trend line struck through it. Yep. Question.
What's the value you use for the y-axis there?
The y-axis is just, it's match number. So this is,
Why?
oh, y, okay. Y-axis is just value. So essentially it's the same set value. It typically goes up to 6. At states though, it went up to, I believe, 8. So the axes change. They're like adaptable. So based on the data that's coming in, it changes itself. But so it'll be match number, and then during that match number, if they climb 0 or 1 time, right? So it's just that numerical value. There's no actual purpose to the
It's count.
value. Count, yeah.
Count.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So who did we select? Wait, ask it. Who? Okay, audience, who would you select?
66. They look pretty good, don't they? Right.
Wait,
But
not yet.
1 second. But we're both, we don't, okay, yes, we shoot, but we're obviously not exactly up there in terms of shooting, 28-34, I'll be honest with you guys. So we need a shooter robot, because look at the other alliances.
We already saw it, so
27
27 is gone.
Gone.
Right?
43,
And 4362 is gone.
Yep.
Right? So who's the next best shooter? Somebody before said fuel counts, right? Somebody called it out, right? Fuel matters, right? All right,
Right.
thank you. Fuel matters. So how much does it matter? Would you pick, who's the next fuel on the field? Was 1189?
1189 has the
okay,
next
it's
best
1189.
Okay.
Right, let's take a look at where 1189 is with the other stats.
All right, they're falling over here in terms of fuel. I mean, in terms of everything else, yeah. So they're a little ways down.
All right.
Right, and then that's when we started to look at, okay, they're a little ways down, but how beneficial are they in terms of our actual match strategy? So
Okay, so who are we going to pick?
now we're going to go and sort by, this is another really nice thing about Tableau. We can go right into there and go, okay, so I want to see by their climb statistics, because if you don't climb, you don't win, essentially. So not climbs, climb. All right. Sending. Now we see who has the best climb versus who has the worst climb. Right?
All right, so
Ah. Okay. Then we see these left out on the field.
all right, so we're looking for 1189.
Yep. You guys see them?
Were they there? Okay, there they are. All right. So 1189 was the next best shooter. Do you take them, or do you not take them and go for, you know, gear and climbing?
Can't get 40, it's not worth it.
Right.
Okay, so we selected 66.
Yep.
Right.
Because even though they were a really good shooter, they can't get up to 40. You can't get 40 pressure points. But then they're also falling over here in terms of climb, meaning that they're not the strongest climber, right? But 66 in terms of climb, they're second best only to us. And then they also have the highest gear output even compared to us. So they were the obvious choice.
Okay, so we're just looking at the clock. I think we have 10 minutes left or so. So what we shared with you here today, we wanted to explain to you how we use Tableau, use it for decision-making purpose. It's a really handy tool. I think you can hopefully have seen its flexibility and speed, right? Because decisions have to be made quickly. I'm just going to switch back over to here. So if you don't know Tableau, it's available to all the first teams. You go underneath your team account, and each team, I think, receives 5 licenses. There's folks who use Tableau, is that correct still? 5 licenses. So it's available to every team, and you can go to our team website, 2834.com, for different sample charts and so forth that you can take a look at. I'd like to close by just mentioning the 2834 scouting database. And so this is a collection of data, including OPRs for every team in FIRST. So if you're here today and there are teams that you don't know, as likewise for us, the 2834 scouting database contains the OPRs for every team, and you can pull it down, and it's in Excel, and you can sort it and filter it and so forth. There are other scouting databases also. Ours was one of the first ones, if not the first one. So we publish it every year, and it uses all of the field management data to create the OPRs. This is a chart that's in the scouting database. You can just type in any team, and it'll come up with the stats and the performance from the year for any team. And then this is the chart that I was mentioning, called World Rank, and this is the one that I personally use the most of our database, and Mr. Cook and Dr. Cridley have been instrumental in continuing this effort for the team. So again, you can go in here. It's all in Excel, and you can pull it down, and you can filter and sort and et cetera. And this is a picture of, for instance, what we've done with the data. I don't know how well you can see it, but this is kind of how we apply our own database. And this is Archimedes Field with the teams there, and all of the different component OPRs are there for auton, pressure, takeoff, rotors, and so forth, and we just highlight them by red, yellow, and green. So as if going into the first matches here, before you have any observable data that you've made on your own, what do you know about the other teams? Unless you've done some kind of pre-scouting with Blue Alliance and watched matches and so forth, which I know some people do, we use this data, right, to, you know, for ourselves. This is how we do it. And it's available to everyone. All you have to do is go to our website and download it. You guys have any other comments you'd like to share on this?
That's what we do, although this year was kind of interesting that the component OPRs we found didn't work that well for the rotors, because rotors aren't gears. Rotors, you get points as gears, so we ended up just tracking the amount of times that they get 3 rotors or 4 rotors percentage-wise as a team, because component OPRs, when we compared them to actually gear stats in the Tableau, ended up being not very correlated at all, which was annoying, so we couldn't use component OPRs, and that's what we ended up pre-scouting. We ended up just counting rotors. Yes?
Very useful in other years, though.
Yeah.
Other years.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Correlate any of the metrics with the team rankings to see ultimately what was interesting about some of these metrics?
This year was very different. Most years they correlate. You can kind of figure out that based on the rankings, here's a prediction of who's going to win. This year, because the 3 alliances are playing 3 alliances, that 3rd alliance member matters drastically. If you don't have a 3rd alliance member that can climb, you're probably not going to win. It's that simple. So no metrics actually show that in your little list. They show that this person can't climb, but if you try to add the 3 teams together, it's like average you'll win. No, you won't, because it's a 50-point jump. Or a 4 rotor, it's a 140-point jump in the playoffs. So you have to do that if you want to win. Or get a lot of fuel, because fuel matters also.
This is a really good question. Also, I haven't spent enough time with it to prove it with data, but it's my belief that the penalty points this year, the effect of penalty points is really throwing off the use of the OPR for predicting wins and losses. So the correlation this year doesn't seem to be as high a correlation as it has been in prior years, right? In prior years, it's been pretty good. This year, I think the penalty points and the high impact value of the penalties to drive a win and a loss is really impacting this. Okay, yeah, question.
Yeah, I had a question. I was talking with a person earlier today. We were watching teams play defense, and the question was, when is it advantageous to play defense as opposed to doing offense? Because if you're playing defense, you obviously are putting up more points. And if you have 2 members that can get all your gears and stuff, then it's an advantage. But there's always a trade-off of what do you lose versus what do you gain. And obviously, you targeted the big point getter on the one side, hoping that you could bring the team down quite a bit in that context. But
Right.
I'm just interested in your psychology behind defense and the trade-offs on that.
Well, really, especially in qualification matches, if you look at it, there's only a set amount of points you can get for defense and a set amount of points you can get for the rotors. You know, like after you have 4 rotors going, it's 4 rotors, right? You can't put more gears up there. And for pressure, it's points, yes, but typically you can't even get to the 40 pressure points as is. So after a robot that doesn't shoot but just does pressure gets a certain amount of gears up there, and you know that the other 2 teams can put gears up there, it's better to have them making sure that the other teams can't put those points up on the wall than making sure that they continue to play. I think that was a really driving point behind putting gear defense robots.
Briefly, we went into the season, at least for the defense, I know a lot of other teams took a look at it and said, you know what, for instance, if you can't climb yourself, then you ought to just play defense and prevent another robot from climbing. And the methodology of being able to do that was kind of mixed, right? I think you see now teams figuring out there are a couple of more highly effective strategies to do that, not that also come back to the climbing rate, the climbing, how much time it is to climb. That's what I think that you see. Another point that I'd like to add to your question, if you don't mind. In the metrics, in the OPR metrics, is also what they call CCWM, calculated contribution to winning margin. And so there's a big debate for those who go on Chief Delphi. You guys who go on Chief Delphi, I know, right? you'll see, threads that have been going on for years long on what's more important, to offensive statistics or to try to take into consideration the value of defense, and that's what led to the creation of what was called the CCWM, or Calculated Contribution to Winning Margin, which means that when you're on the field, your team is winning by a greater margin, not necessarily by a huge amount of offensively scored points, if you know what I mean, right? So a team is on a field, and good things are happening that contribute to the win, that are not all the time a high amount of points, right? So there's another metric that's out there called CCWM, right? Let me just wrap up. So knowing your opponent is just as important as knowing yourself, right? There's some questions asked about, how do you scout yourself and et cetera. Aim for concise and effective visualizations that you understand, you can maneuver quickly, and you can present to someone else that they can understand it also very rapidly. Allows you to be the leader amongst your group in a match. Always have a mind for gathering meaningful data, right? Not necessarily all the data that's possible. What is going to be the most meaningful for you, and to trust your data, right? And if you don't trust your data, then you can go back to the scouters, right? But don't necessarily change what it is meaningful, right? If the data collection isn't going right, then go back to the data collection process. But this is still what you need to collect. And so some links and resources for you. You can always go to our website. A lot is there, team2834.com. The scouting database is there. Tableau.com for FIRST Robotics is there for you. And then a number of other links. This presentation is going to be published on our website, and I'm sure through FIRST. Okay, so, and then there's here who we are. So there's only a couple of, some minutes for some last questions or comments. Okay, sorry, go ahead in the back.
How do you deal with data inaccuracies?
Data inaccuracies. Okay, so this is a good question. Briefly, we bring this back immediately after every tournament that we have gone to, and the whole team is there to take a look at what we just showed you. This is the data that was collected. We will take them through the decision-making process. We will highlight, let's just say, what's the word? Questionable data that we saw collected by our folks, and try to get at the root cause of it. During the battlefield conditions, right, on like Friday night going into Saturday and so forth, we will have to use our best judgment to like eliminate questionable data on our own and say, this is just crazy, or we'll go back into the core data and take a look, and we will have observed, as Shavina said, well, we know that there were 6 gears delivered, and why was it scouted as 2? So some of it we can catch, right, but the way that we do it is kind of after the fact, going back to our team and trying to make it better for the next time. That's how we do it.
But also Tableau is really beneficial in that sense, in that it works out a lot of the data that seems outrageous compared to the rest of the data overall.
So I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3.
This is a little bit not to do with your systems, but how do you motivate scouters? Do you have like a reward system, or are you just really passionate about it?
Do you mean like?
This is number 2.
Why do scouters?
The team is into scouting.
Yeah, we love it. We live for it.
There's also
Good answer.
Also, I have a solid set of lungs, so if if there is some issue with scouting, then
I think this is a fair point, right? The role of scouting is rigorous, right? It's tough, right? High school students spending like hours watching matches and so forth, right? So we on our team, we try to cycle like in hour chunks. For that's how we do it. For teams who don't have those resources, I know it's a challenge for folks to spend that amount of time. What I've seen some teams do is they don't even scout the early matches, right? They wait until like match 3. Like if you have 12 matches, sometimes I've seen that. We don't, but I've seen other teams do it because they basically say the early matches, throw them out anyway because even the robot isn't performing at the way that you necessarily want to. Take it into consideration on Saturday afternoon. How's their first match on Friday? You want to consider that for Saturday afternoon. So that's a way to reduce the workload a little bit. Just as a different
Also
suggestion.
being concise with the app. So going back to the previous point of collecting less data, making it more accurate, and your scouters not having to focus on 10 billion things and actually having a nice attention span.
We We did reduce it a lot from the week 1 to week 2 to week 5 when we played again. It was.
Yeah, there's been ongoing work on the app, so yeah.
Kids are like, it's too confusing. I can't do this, and this. It's like, fine, we'll get rid of those 4 points.
But they're motivated through fear.
Yes.
Carrot, stick.
Yes. Yeah. Question.
Is that really it? Okay, sorry.
About data inaccuracies, when you pull up the box on the school plot, that was also 0-second climb.
Yes, yes.
Faster
So
than the speed
right,
of light.
Those are throwouts, right. You're absolutely correct. Those would be ones that we have to go back and say, and it could be 2 things. Either the human scouter wasn't right, or the app was, issues or something. It's correct. We do look at, it actually took us 2 tries before even to get to what we saw, because we had difficulties with that. So we knew, we needed to be a little skeptical looking at data, but it was good enough for us to use. You're exactly correct. Sorry.
The scouters entering their initials wherever they match, so then we can go back and be like, all right, you entered in 6 0-second climb times.
What? Right. Right. Exactly. What?
Question over here.
I'm sorry. You've been. She's been patient.
Oh. Okay.
Questions. One is, what is your training process for your scouting team? When do you determine who's a scout? And so do you train them throughout the year? Or like our team, for example, decides to scout the weekend before the tournament, and then really there's no training program.
The master.
We're also in Michigan. So for the state championship this year, for the first time, we actually had our newly appointed scouts review video the night before the tournament. And do you do that, and how do you value in that?
Actually, like, our overall strategy team can be branched off into like 3 sub-teams themselves. So we have, of course, the strategy team who does like strategy. There's Tableau, which is me, and then we also have, of course, the team that's scouting themselves. Everyone on our team scouts, so we have a rotation. So no one is trained in particular to do that. But the overall, like the strategy team, everyone looks over the data the night before the competition, and there's also like OPR that we look over. So that's how we.
Probably, if I could put it this way, probably 3 weeks before the first tournament that we were going to, we had solidified enough of the app and knew what we were going to scout for, and that's when we started training in earnest those folks. And the training was kind of twofold. One was, here's what you're going to look for. You need to also make clear to them the definition of what's something that sounds simple now, but how do you know a good climb when you see it, right? Or when do you start the timer? Should I start it when a robot touches the rope, or when it like first approaches the rope? So it's like practical issues like that. But I would say probably three weeks before, and then they needed to get used to the app.
There's one more thing. After our first tournament, there's issues with data around there, but what Andy went up there and showed him basically exactly what we did here, and when we replayed everything that we just did, and that, especially the freshmen, that's like, why are we doing this? You're just busy working us, right? They saw that, wait, this is really useful, and it helped greatly for the data collection in terms of things for the next time. So I recommend doing that, like having a little show of why is this useful, and not just with real data.
Right, and here's exactly what happened, and here's the decisions that we had to make, and when we saw inaccurate data, well, this was the impact of it, right? So, sorry, I wanted to back it in yourself, so go ahead.
So for my team, actually, we have a lot of week intervals. We would have tests for certain aspects, like for instance, if you want to be a head scout, you would take this test, or if you want to be a driver, you would take this test. And for us, we would always take those results and slowly calculate. Well, the tests weren't like, they were mandatory for certain aspects, for especially scouting, because everyone was going to scout, and if you went to play or drive team, then you would do the exception. And with those test results, we would see the veterans would see how much, which members would be good for head scouts, and which one of them would be minions to scout all the matches.
Right. So if you didn't want to be a scout, you would just fail the test. Is that how it, right? No.
Be a minion.
If you went to scout, you could try to get on drive team, or you went on DIP, and if you also, but there are certain, like for instance, safety, that was something that you didn't scout for. And what we usually do with the freshmen enhancements for scouting is basically we go to an off-season event and show them the last years of the stronghold. We gave them scouting data for that, and then let them play around with that and see like who liked scouting, who didn't like scouting, and then we would try to make sub-teams and train them in certain aspects of like they wanted to do, and that actually helps boost the team's overall achievement.
All right, that's
Perfect,
complicated.
Go ahead, go ahead.
We started doing a couple of interesting things. Before the competition, we bring all 6 scouts and they all watch the same video and they all scout the same team.
Ah, right.
And after that, we do a review and see discrepancies that crop up and where they crop up. And they cropped up the most in ball count. For one event, it went all the way from 3 balls to 17 balls for the variation. But interesting enough, a lot of the other metrics, there was a reasonable consensus between all 6 on what they observed. But certain things we noticed were harder to collect on.
I'm glad that you brought up that point, and it comes like how do you train the scouters? When we go to if we can go to a week 1 tournament that we're not participating in, or even this year we went to week 1 and week 2, we also do exactly that, right? We go with the 6 tablets, and we tell each of the scouters to watch the same robot, and should come back the same results, right? But it doesn't happen that way all the time, right? And that's also how we use for training purpose, if you can. If you're in a week 1 tournament, then not much you can do in a live mode. Yep.
We're a rugby team, so for a while I was the only scout that had all the teams. And then the only scout, now we have 2 scouts.
Mhm. Right.
I'm assuming you guys have a scout for each.
We do, and our team has grown over years. We started with 6 students, right? Maybe likewise as you have. In the early days of our team, just as a suggestion, we would scout still all the time individual robots, right? Not try to cover the 3 versus the 3 and so forth, and focus in as rapidly as you could on those that you could clearly see better, right? And then you might observe those on multiple occasions and that sort of thing. Even if it's just the 2 of you guys, my recommendation is to focus in on what one robot, watch them all through a match, right? Rather than to try to observe 3 all at the same time. That's how we did it. There's no right or wrong, but yeah, the resources that you can devote to it cause you to have to do things a little bit differently, but you can still be effective, right? And you can still go to the 2834 database, right, or others, right, to find some metric data that you can use here, at the tournament for your field.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just started using Tableau this year, and where do you guys learn how to use the advanced parts of Tableau? I've just scratched the surface, but I've not just scratched the surface. But where do you learn how to use the features?
I had a mentor, a previous team member, but the thing is with Tableau, you really have to play around with it. But the internet is a great resource, There's a lot of forums just for Tableau users, right? And definitely, I would join some of those forums, talk to them, a lot of them have business purposes, but you learn about the applications better, and also use data that you previously have that you're not data that doesn't really not for this competition, just data in general, and play around with it. Try and create the most complex of the complex features. Also, if you talk to me later, I can show you other than that how I learned it.
And there's an example of our previous Tableau stuff that's on our website that you can look at to get an idea of what you want.
Is there anything else, in GDPR or whatever, that is specific to scouting and Tableau? For first scouters, these are, because the data is kind of the same over here, and there's maybe some basic templates or something that can be compared.
You know, I'm frankly not aware on Delphi of a lot, but you could, I mean, certainly come to us and go to our website. We have some devices there, right? And then I know that there are some other teams, some that were here. 1640 is on our field. They use Tableau quite a bit. 3138, the Fires, is another team that uses Tableau quite a bit. And I don't know, do any other teams that are still here that use Tableau have anything published on our websites, or have any different? Yeah, so those are a few. If you want to come up, you know, I can help you jot them down, and we can look for some things.
Are you connected to the internet during scouting, or are you offline?
Offline.
Yeah, we don't count on
Bluetooth.
being connected. Yeah, right, right. Because you never know. If we are, then okay, but our process assumes that we're not.
Yeah, if you have any app-specific questions, just come up to me later, or like data collection. We do everything via Bluetooth.
And if you have any Tableau-specific questions, you can ask me as well.
Someone in the back was raising their hand.
Was there anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for data collection, do you compile all the data at the end of each day, or do you systematically just go
I pull data every 10 to 15 matches, because that's essentially after like every team on the field has played, right? So we essentially pull every 10 to 15 matches. That way you can use them during match scouting as well.
You're a little bit late right now.
Right.
So when you compile all the data, do you use one single device for all the core data, or do you?
Yes. The master tablet, so everything gets, all the 6 tablets send their data to the master tablet, and then the master tablet exports the data to Shavina. Tableau.
Okay, we're gonna then propose to close it on out. You can reach us anytime. Thanks. But believe me, it's our pleasure. We felt very fortunate to be asked to come back, and next year, hopefully, we'll see you in Detroit. All right, see you guys. Good luck.
Thank you for coming. Hope you all win.
Wait, what am I being called for?
Hello.
Hello. I have some questions for